Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final reaction video for the Euro 2024 qualifiers. Well, sort of. There is still the playoffs to go through, but the group stage of the qualifiers has officially ended. Congratulations to every single one of the teams who has qualified. Now, usually when I do a reaction video, I base it off of my match day predictions. And although I did a match day prediction video for the final two match days 9 and 10, I'm going to be reacting to my initial predictions I made all the way back in March, where I tried to solidify the group standings as to where I think each team will finish. I already know some of it went okay and some of it went absolutely terribly, so we'll see what I had to say. As always, guys, please, if you haven't already, drop an early like, subscribe if you're new, and let me know how you guys did in the predictions as well. I went for some ambitious takes that didn't go my way, and I could have gone for some others, but regardless, it has been an incredible group stage for these Euro qualifiers. Very much enjoyed certain teams in specific, but yeah, let's start off with Group A. You've got Spain, Scotland, Norway, Georgia, and Cyprus. This is a fascinating group. You've got one European giant, obviously, who didn't perform as planned in the World Cup. They got knocked out in the round of 16s to Morocco. That resulted in Luis Enrique getting sacked and Luis de la Fuente being appointed. Now, Luis de la Fuente, for most of his career, was in charge of the youth system, so he's already had quite the experience with Spain, just not at the senior level. It's going to be very interesting to see what he's capable of. I don't think I need to go too in-depth with this squad. Most of us know it really well already. Maybe a few veterans not at their peak anymore, but still, what an incredible side. I do think they'll grab first place in this group. I would be surprised if they don't. We'll see if any of these other nations surprise, though, as they definitely can. I definitely see Spain getting halted at least once or twice in this group, but doing the job at the end, qualifying for the Euros immediately. I think they got it. But let's move on to Scotland, the only other nation in this group that qualified for Euro 2020 last time around. They handled the pressure well to qualify for that tournament, beating Serbia in the playoffs on penalties. This squad has a ridiculous amount of fullback options, as most of us know, Andy Robertson being the most famous out of the bunch, but there's still Tierney on Arsenal, Nathan Peterson on Everton, Calvin Ramsey on Liverpool. Unfortunately, the two of them are injured, but they're brilliant youngsters that can definitely make a difference later on in the qualifiers. One of my concerns for the squad, though, is how the attack will perform. I know Che Adams does have his brilliant moments, but I don't know if he's necessarily the best striker to rely on. In the last World Cup qualifier campaign, they did a pretty good job making it to the playoff round, but losing that first round in the playoffs to Ukraine. Seemed to get revenge on Ukraine later, though, in the Nations League, where they topped their group. So I'll say their manager, Steve Clark, seems to get the best out of this side. Overall, they organize well as a unit, and they're an impressive bunch. But can they handle the pressure against the other teams? I'm telling you, this is a tough group, man. Scotland already did qualify for the playoff spots, so even if they do butcher this group, they still have a chance to qualify at the end due to the knockouts, which is what they did last time. Georgia are also in the same position since they topped their Nations League group. They were in League C. Obviously, their group wasn't as strong on paper, but it's still a remarkable achievement as they were undefeated and grabbed 5 wins along the way. Some of them were massive as well. Norway have an incredible squad, as we all know. Haaland and Odegaard are crushing it in the Premier League right now. There's also some youngsters coming in, such as Sjelderup, who Benfica just picked up. He was incredible prior to that in the Danish league. This attack looks dangerous, I'm telling you. And their defense, one of my favorites for now, Julian Riasen, has been fantastic for Union Berlin. Just earned himself a transfer to Dortmund. The problem with Norway is, in many qualifier campaigns, or in any international competition at all, because we saw in the last Nations League campaign, they have a very strong start. And then they just seem to lose the grip. In the Nations League, they had first place on lockdown, but then they had to bottle it to Serbia at the end. In the World Cup qualifiers, yes, Haaland was injured for a bit, but we did see them lose that playoff spot at the very end. And in the last Euro qualifiers, they made it to the playoff spot, but they lost to Serbia in the first round. At the same time, though, will Norway be absolutely fired up right now? Because they're the only team in this group, apart from Cyprus, that don't have a playoff spot on lockdown. Spain, Scotland, and Georgia all do. You never know. Norway might be more fueled up because they have more at stake. They really need to play their heart out in order to qualify for Euro 2024. And not to mention, they've only qualified for one Euro championship ever in 2000. Cyprus do have a couple of upcoming talents, obviously, but I don't have faith in them because, yeah, all these other opponents are looking way too dangerous. Best of luck to Cyprus. Always love to see the underdogs pull through, but I'm saying they finish last place. From second to fourth, though, it's such a gamble, man. But truly, and I really mean when I say this, it feels criminal to put any of those three teams in fourth place. I really do have a sneaky suspicion that Georgia will get third place. I just do. I do see either Norway or Scotland bottling this a little bit. Now, who am I going to put in that upset for fourth place? Guys, I really won't be surprised if I'm wrong on this, but I'm going to have to go with Scotland once again. I'm sorry, Scotland. I love you guys. Truly, what a nation. But someone's going to slip here. I do see an upset happening. I do see Georgia stirring this group more than people expect them to. and maybe Scotland just falls short. I was so torn about who to pick, and I felt criminal putting any of the teams at 4th, and of course, the one I put at 4th ended up being 2nd place Scotland. Bravo to you guys. I don't know why. I keep believing in Norway. I really thought this would be their time to shine. With Haaland and Odegaard in fantastic form, Scotland are very much more of a complete unit. The likes of Scott McTominay was phenomenal throughout this qualifier campaign, being a key figure in many matches. To be fair, the Scots warned me about all of this. I wasn't necessarily surprised that I was proven wrong here though, because like I said, very much a tough one to call, but it's just a shame that Norway continued to disappoint. They haven't qualified for a major international tournament in 24 years now. As the order finished in this: Spain 1st, Scotland 2nd, Norway 3rd, Georgia 4th, and Cyprus last. That 3rd place finish for Norway was not enough. They have no playoff position secured. They are officially eliminated from qualifying for Euro 2024. So yeah, these were my initial thoughts, and I know I wasn't the only one who was thinking these as well. Many people thought Haaland could actually qualify for a major international tournament this time, as he failed for the last World Cup and the previous Euros as well. Well, it looks like we're going to have to wait some more till we see him at the big stage for his country. But regardless, bravo to Scotland. They finished 2nd at the end, but they held on to 1st for a very long time, as they beat Spain at the beginning. They had a dramatic and incredible tale. Their last 3 games, they definitely slowed down. They lost to Spain, and then they drew to Georgia and Norway. However, since they already secured Euro qualification, it's fair to say that maybe their motivation wasn't at an all-time high, but they had that incredible start, a much better start than most national teams, and it did justice for them. Congratulations once again to Scotland for proving me wrong. It's been an absolute joy to watch you guys, and I cannot wait to see how well you guys do in Euro 2024. So far, the only prediction I got correct was Spain getting 1st and Cyprus finishing last. Now for Group B, you got 2 favorites here that are most likely going to be battling for that 1st place spot: Netherlands and France, along with 2 respectable underdogs right now, Ireland and Greece. I think it's going to be a very interesting fight between the two to see who can potentially clinch 3rd. Maybe we could see an upset for them to reach 2nd, but I'm sorry, I kind of doubt that. And then you've got Gibraltar at the end. I'm sorry, Gibraltar, but I don't see you pulling through in this. Good luck on getting a point, maybe 3. But I'm saying they get last place. But going back to Ireland and Greece, Greece seem to be onto something. They topped their Nations League group, so they already have that playoff spot secured. But they're still going to want to cause damage in this, of course. They were in a terrific run of form. Incredible keeper between the sticks, Vlacho Dimos on Benfica. Tsimikas is obviously one of the most well-known figures, proper fullback he is. Alexandropoulos is definitely a promising center mid. Their captain and attacking midfielder Bakasetas has been in great form for them. So yeah, Greece with a fantastic Nations League campaign. Ireland, not much so, but they were definitely in a more difficult group. However, now seems like the perfect time to turn things around, as they seem to be going through a massive golden generational overhaul. It might be a bit too early for them to really make an impact in a difficult Euro group, of course. And although I have a lot of faith in this generation to flourish in the future, I don't think it will be their year. I'm going to say Greece edged them for this year's fixtures and get 3rd. Now, between Netherlands and France, very interesting matchup. These are some of the 2 most informed teams in Europe at the moment. I mean, Netherlands have been undefeated in so long until they had to face Argentina on penalties. When it comes to their overall record, it's really impressive what they have done. They went into the World Cup looking like the most confident European team, and going to the quarterfinals, getting knocked out to the champions on penalties is still an admirable run. France, on the other hand, obviously made it all the way to the World Cup final, after a decent amount of people, including me, counted them out because of the World Cup curse and their Nations League performance. It was really terrible, but it's silly to ever count out this side. They have some incredible talent, of course. Kylian Mbappe, one of the best forwards in the world, probably the most complete squad, to be honest. The World Cup has shown us that even when they struggle with injuries, they still have the depth and pull through. And we always see new talent emerging. This one's genuinely a flip of a coin. I believe I said Netherlands will get 1st last time around, but you know, France is definitely a steep task, and I think the motivation will just continue to be there, especially after just missing out on winning a 2nd World Cup in a row. So I'm gonna say France get 1st this time around, Netherlands 2nd. So after a horrendous guess for Group A, Group B, I ended up getting 100% correct. Order the exact same. France ended up only getting 1 draw to Greece at the end. Other than that, they have gotten nothing but wins. Nearly got a 100% record here, meaning they went undefeated. Netherlands did have some shaky moments at the beginning, but they picked themselves back up. Although I'm happy to get this prediction correct, I am surprised Ireland were only able to grab 2 wins against Gibraltar, nothing else. I thought they could maybe have a bit more of an impact, at least least get a draw maybe against Greece at some point? Nope, none of that. Despite having a lot of solid young players, I think they're gonna have to wait for them to develop better, hopefully, because right now it seems a bit too early. Gibraltar was by far the worst ever team in this Euro qualifier campaign with a minus 41 goal difference, as in the final international break they got demolished by France 14-0 and then Netherlands 6-0. Let's move on to Group C now. Two European giants once again, Italy, England, joined with Ukraine, Macedonia, and Malta. Let's start off by saying Malta's getting 5th place. I'm sorry, Malta. Don't think I need to elaborate there. If I'm wrong, that's going to age terribly, but we've seen Macedonia have impressive moments last time around in the World Cup qualifiers. We've seen them beat Italy. They're the reason why we couldn't see Italy at the World Cup at the end of the day. Will we see some kind of magisterial moment like that once again? Maybe we can see Macedonia upset one of these giants, and I'm rooting for this side in this group. This is the side I want to see qualify, but I do think they're going to get 4th place. I think they really got an unfavorable draw here. All these other 3 teams, including Ukraine, are looking way too strong. Of course they could surprise me, but Ukraine in qualifiers does not mess about. In their last 2 qualifiers for the World Cup and the last Euros, they went undefeated. Sure, they missed out on qualifying for the World Cup, but they were in a group with France. They were basically forced to the playoffs after accumulating too many draws. They beat Scotland, and then they failed to beat Wales after a Hennessy masterclass. And in the Euro qualifiers, they finished 1st in their group. One of their results was beating Serbia 5-0. Despite Ukraine going through a lot right now, I cannot see them slipping to Macedonia. But between Italy and England, it's a very tough one to call. England were obviously in pot 2 in this draw since they bottled their Nations League group. It was a very difficult group to be fair, but it was a bit unexpected that they would lose to Hungary so heftily. Regardless, this side had a remarkable World Cup campaign. Yes, they got knocked out of the quarterfinals, but they weren't even that unconvincing against France, apart from Harry Kane's missed penalty. They played pretty well in that match, and before then they were getting some massive scorelines going their way. But according to recent history, Italy might be able to halt England once again, as yeah, these are the 2 sides that made it to the Euro 2020 final. This side was also in the same group as England in the Nations League, where they were able to get the last laugh against them. Recent history simply suggests that Italy should be the ones to top England. But really won't be surprised if history is broken here and England do the job themselves. Another toss-up, I believe I said Italy last time, but right now, the England talent just seems to continuously shine. Maybe Southgate can somehow hold this side back, but I do think England will grab 1st place over Italy. I did get this correct. However, it was extremely close. Italy could have easily finished 3rd place. Take a look at that final match day. I'm sorry, Italy. Happy you guys qualified. However, Ukraine should have had a penalty there. They just should have. In stoppage time, no call there. It finished with Italy and Ukraine sharing the same amount of points at the end. Italy only advancing over them due to the head-to-head record. I genuinely feel bad for Ukraine because the luck of the draw was not on their side. This is a very difficult group and they just nearly pulled out of it. They still have the playoffs on their hands, but no one wants to be in that position. It's going to be difficult. Italy just narrowly escaping, avoiding playoffs. We all know they don't want to be in that position themselves, as that's how they were not able to be in the last 2 World Cups. Ukraine might have what it takes, but they also had an unfortunate display in the last World Cup qualifier playoffs. Macedonia also had some admirable and interesting displays in this run, but they simply did not deserve to be near the top this time around. They blew a 2-0 lead to Ukraine at one point. They lost to England 7-0. Both times they faced Italy, they scared them a bit, but Italia were able to get the job done against them, scoring loads of goals towards the final minutes of the match. Macedonia as well got a bit unlucky being in this group. Very interesting group regardless, and shout out to England for going undefeated in this. 6 wins, 2 draws. They beat Italia both times they played them as well. I guess now they need to complete their revenge at the Euro tournament itself. So yeah, England fans have every reason to be excited. Brilliant generation coming up for this Euro tournament. Will they finally win it? Will it be coming home? I don't know. We say that every year. Regardless, you can't deny that all the talent here have really been proving their worth, even for the national team. I feel bad for Ukraine, not gonna lie, but they still have a chance, and I'm happy to get something 100% correct, because I know later on it's not gonna be the case. Now moving on to Group D. Croatia, Wales, Armenia, Turkey, and Latvia. Croatia getting 3rd place recently in the World Cup. They love to cut everything close, even the qualifiers though. Something tells me they're not going to make this a clean sweep, even though this group looks extremely doable for them. I'm still going to say they get 1st place, but I'm not going to be surprised if halfway through the qualifiers, we're questioning everything. But for the rest of the 4 cases, it's actually more unpredictable than we think. Turkey are extremely inconsistent. We all know that. They just show up out of nowhere, but then tank it to teams they really should be beating. Wales are a bit unpredictable right now as they have just lost Gareth Bale at the helm. He has retired internationally. He didn't really have an impressive World Cup, I know, but prior to that, he really was the key difference on that team. Of course, they still have a lot of other youngsters to rely on, but regardless, they could be in a tricky situation. Armenia, to be honest, are really not in convincing form. They were in last place by far in their Nations League group. They had minor glimpses of hope in the World Cup qualifiers, but then ended up crashing right after that. And Latvia might be one of the most interesting pot 5 teams. It's a side that can definitely take advantage of Turkey's inconsistency, Armenia's poor form at the moment, and an unpredictable Wales. But Croatia first, like I said. For second place, I'm going to say it's Turkey. I think despite those inconsistencies, they can pull off strong here. Despite now missing Yilmaz, he's retired internationally. You still got a lot of key players there, like Çalhanoğlu, Under, Soyuncu, and I'm very excited to see the youngster Arda Güler potentially shine. Wales, I think, are just a bit too hard to call right now. Of course, they had a very disappointing World Cup campaign. I expected a lot more from this side. I wasn't saying that they were guaranteed to make it out, but they should have put off a better fight. They only scored 1 goal, and it was a penalty against the USA. A gift of a penalty as well. And I don't know how it's going to translate now to these Euro qualifiers. Of course, we've seen this side have miraculous runs in the past, but with a very different squad. We'll see what they're capable of. I'm going to say they get 3rd place. Armenia 4th, Latvia 5th. Those are my final answers for Group D. All right, I got the top 2 advancing correct and the rest of the order correct. Just mixed up where Turkey and Hrvatska will finish. However, I gotta give myself credit for that first thing I said about Croatia. We were questioning everything after the 6th and 7th match day. After losing to Wales and Turkey, we were at 3rd, trailing to both. We highly depended on Wales to mess up on the final international break, and they did. They got 2 draws against Armenia and Turkey, and we got a win against Latvia and Armenia. I knew it. Croatia brought it down to the final match day, and if Wales actually beat Turkey on that final match day, we could have gotten first. It was that close. But shout out to Turkey for getting first instead. At the top was 17 points, Croatia was 16, Wales at 3rd with 12, Armenia with 8, and Latvia with 3. I went to the final match against Armenia, and it was just a massive sigh of relief. Only scoring 1 goal from out of all people, Budimir. I can't lie, after the recent performances, despite us qualifying, I am slightly skeptical on how we will do in Euro 2024. It's going to really depend on the group draw as well. We still seem to be lacking that goal-scoring threat from time to time. Dalic's tactics do sometimes puzzle me. Shout out to Wales, I guess, for making it exciting, and shout out to Turkey for grabbing 1st place. I think the Turkish fans know from the last Euro tournament they can't be hyping themselves up anymore. But that's a good thing. Turkey tend to perform when everyone expects them to crumble. So maybe they can actually be the dark horse in this Euro tournament. I was also expecting a little bit more from Latvia to do a little bit more damage, maybe grabbing 1 point here and there. Instead, they only grabbed 1 win against Armenia. Now taking a look at Group E with Poland, Czech Republic, Albania, Faroe Islands, and Moldova. Poland and Czech Republic look like the favorites here, but still a group of life for Albania where they can prove themselves. I am still a bit worried about this national team. They really bottled their Nations League group. After Russia got banned as well, they had the perfect opportunity to prove themselves and they blew it. Thankfully, they got a new manager, the Brazilian Silvino, who could be promising, but definitely not the most guaranteed choice of somebody who's going to blow it out the park for Albania. He managed Corinthians in the past, I believe, and I think fans had mixed feelings about him. Another reason why I'm a little bit worried for Albania is because Broja is going to be injured for a decent amount of time. Chelsea striker. Still, though, there's some other exciting youngsters like Christian Aslani on Inter Milan, the center defensive mid, Marash Kumbula on Roma, along with the experienced players that we all know like Hisai on Lazio. Albania is definitely going to be a mystery bag, but in terms of appointing new managers, Albania is not the only side to do so in this group. Poland have as well. They appointed the long-term Portugal manager Fernando Santos, who I used to criticize a lot. He won the Euros with Portugal, yes, but once Portugal had a more complete, fearless squad, somehow he seemed to lack with the amazing talent they had. But back when Portugal looked a bit weaker, he did wonders for them. Maybe Poland is the perfect fit for a manager like him. Yeah, that was definitely not the case. Fernando Santos sacked midway through this qualifier campaign. I think if Albania were to squeeze through to that 2nd place spot, it would be over a slipping Czech Republic. But if I'm going to make an overall prediction, I still think Czech Republic will be the ones to grab 2nd, Poland 1st. Even with Santos being a bit iffy, I think he will fit in with this side very well, actually. I know I criticized him a lot in the past, but like I said, I think with less pressure, he will be able to do the job with Polska. Poland 1st, Czech Republic 2nd, Albania 3rd, Faroe Islands, very exciting side, but they're going to get 4th, and Moldova 5th. For once, it put some fantastic displays. They could even upset the likes of Albania. I mean, we've seen them beat Turkey not too long ago, but I'm going to stick with my order. This group was one of the worst calls I made. I got nothing right apart from Czech Republic getting second. Albania topped the group. Poland get third. Moldova fourth, and they really could have qualified themselves. They made it exciting, and Faroe Islands fifth. First of all, sorry Moldova for sleeping on you guys. What an incredible underdog run. It's a shame you guys could not do it at the end. It really broke down to that final match day against Czech Republic, and they were the victorious ones. They finished 4th place, 1 point behind Polska. You got to give all the credit to this side. They beat Poland once, drew with them another time, drew with Czech Republic, drew with Albania. They didn't make it easy for any of the teams. And also, in this group in particular, they had the top goal scorer, Ion Nikolaicu. I know, I'm sorry, I'm butchering that name. However, this was one of the worst ranked nations in all of UEFA. And they were a side that really fought till the end in this qualifier campaign. Hats off to them. Now let's move on to how disappointing Polska were. First of all, Fernando Santos really just brought this side down. Failed to give them motivation, failed to have proper tactics. They looked lost out there, especially that first match against Moldova. They were the only team to beat Albania, to be fair, but Albania did get their revenge. They do have a playoff position, but it's still obviously not ideal. No disrespect to the other national teams, but this was a favorable draw for them considering the quality this side has. They failed to deliver. To be fair, Lewandowski was injured for some time, but even when he wasn't, this side just did not perform. Santos being sacked was definitely the right call, but even then the damage was already done. Poland could not really raise themselves up to those top 2 positions, and they just simply lacked passion at the end. That's the best way to put it. But a side that had all the passion in the world was Albania. The way they played throughout these match days were incredible. I wasn't necessarily sure about Slovino. I was slightly skeptical, but he seems to be the perfect fit. We've probably seen this side score the most golazos out of any of the countries in this qualified campaign. So many long shots from outside the box. I even mentioned I was worried how they would cope without Broja. They never even played him, and they still had some phenomenal attackers pulling through. One's not even that well known. Their striker plays in the UAE, and also Asani plays in Korea. But the way Albania played in this qualified campaign, sure, it was against a somewhat lifeless Poland and an inconsistent Czech Republic, but this side definitely have what it takes to potentially be an underdog in Euro 2024. Topping the group in style, I was thinking maybe they could squeeze to second, but no. They outshine every single one of these teams here, and you got to give them all of the credit. Bravo, Albania. Very excited to see what you guys are made of this summer. Sharing points with Czech Republic at the top, even from Albanians, was not really foreseen. Now let's move on to Group F with Belgium, Austria, Sweden, Azerbaijan, and Estonia. Belgium, obviously the biggest talking point is the golden generation disintegrating. Roberto Martinez has also left the managerial role. He went straight to Portugal, so in comes Tedesco, who has previously managed the likes of RB Leipzig, Spartak Moscow, and Schalke. I think Belgium would have been in a lot more trouble if they were in a more difficult group, but of course, they're still a pot 1 nation, and they got a favorable draw on their hands. Of course, they shouldn't underestimate Austria or Sweden, but with the legs of Kevin De Bruyne in the midfield, a Romelu Lukaku, who I know very much struggled against Croatia, still loves just banging goals in the qualifiers. I am worried about their defensive situation for sure, and the dressing room was left on a sour note by the end of the World Cup. Both Courtois in between the sticks, I still think this side have what it takes to get first place. Qualifiers never really seem to be a problem for them. I think the biggest question for this group is who's going to get second place. Austria or Sweden. Neither of these teams have a playoff spot on the cards, as Austria finished last in their Nations League group, a difficult one to be fair, where they still got some pretty interesting results like beating Croatia 3-0 at the beginning. Sweden also fell through in their Nations League group. They were in a difficult group as well. Well, the most difficult in League B. But still, getting relegated in League B is not a good look. With the quality they have, they shouldn't be falling off this hard after failing to qualify for the World Cup. It's like that loss to Georgia just changed everything for them. There's still so much quality on this side for me to assume that they can't bounce back from their losses recently. Alexander Isak on Newcastle, Kulusevski, Emil Forsberg. Alinga slightly disappeared from this scene, but he's still just 19 years old. Definitely can make his mark once again. Meanwhile, Austria have a lot of talent you shouldn't mess with. Sabitzer, Alaba, youngster Seywald, Schlager, Adamu. The list goes on for both of these teams, and I'm torn about it, but Ralf Rangnick seems to be a pretty solid manager for Austria. I hate to do Sweden dirty, and I won't be surprised if they prove me wrong, but I'm going to have to stick with this order, where Austria gets second, Sweden third, Azerbaijan fourth, and Estonia fifth. 100% correct. I was very iffy about choosing Austria or Sweden for that second place spot, but Austria as well. This side qualified very early on, and they absolutely elevated in this group along with Belgium for the top spot. They finished second, but were just 1 point behind Belgium. Although I predicted Belgium would get that top spot, I was still slightly skeptical for them after their poor World Cup and a lot of their golden generation disintegrating, I guess, like I always mention. But they still very much pulled through with the talent they still possess. Lukaku was the top goal scorer by a long shot in this qualifier campaign. He finished with 14 goals in just 8 matches. That is outrageous. Hopefully he can continue that kind of form at the actual tournament. It is some time away. But for now, Belgium looked to be doing okay, even with some injuries they possess. Sweden, though, very much disappointed. I thought it would be a lot closer than it finished out to be. They were 9 points behind second place Austria. Even on the final international break, they lost to Azerbaijan 3-0. They only grabbed 3 wins in this, and they were against Estonia twice and Azerbaijan. They failed to beat Austria or Belgium whatsoever. It's a shame because, like I mentioned in the video, they have a lot of incredible players. But their manager Anderson just seemed to lack ideas at the end. And yeah, despite Estonia finishing last place, they do have a playoff position secured due to the Nations League. Do I see them doing something in it? Not too sure, but we'll see what the draw ends up being. Now for Group G. Hungary, Serbia, Montenegro, Bulgaria, and Lithuania. 2 favorites here without a doubt, Hungary and Serbia. Serbia had a disappointing World Cup. After I heavily hyped them up, they still have a very solid side, and they like to do it in the qualifiers, at least for the World Cup. They've never qualified for the Euros, but this is their perfect opportunity to do so, as they definitely look like favorites on paper in this group. But that being said, though, Hungary can definitely halt their parade. They arguably have a more structured defense. They still have a lot of talented players that pull through. Lots of underrated gems in there. We've nearly seen them top the group of death in the Nations League in League A, just falling short to Italy. So it's a toss-up between them. But let's go through the underdogs first. Unfortunately, I don't think Lithuania are convincing enough to pull through, so I'm putting them at 5th place. And I think it's going to be a bit of an interesting fight between Bulgaria and Montenegro, as none of these sides are really convincing me at the moment either. I hate to do Montenegro dirty, please prove me wrong, but I'm saying they get 4th, Bulgaria 3rd. For that top 2, last time I did say Serbia is topping this group, but with not much confidence. It genuinely is a toss-up. The thing about Hungary is they love to be in some really solid form and then just randomly slip to an unexpected team. Last time they couldn't beat Albania. Regardless, Marco Rossi seemed to get the best out of this side once again. It's a coin toss like most of this 1st and 2nd place positioning. I'm going to go still for Serbia grabbing 1st. I know many people are going to disagree with me on that now because I hyped them up last time and they didn't pull through. I'm edging it towards Serbia. I'm going to back them up. Call me biased, I don't care. But I really think it's a toss-up, and I won't be surprised if Hungary prove me wrong. All right, I got a lot wrong on the order of this group. I know. However, I still predicted the top 2 to be correct. In the wrong order, I know, but both Serbia and Hungary finished at the top. Serbia qualified for their first ever Euro. This will be their debut in the Euros as an independent nation, which is crazy to think about considering all the incredible talent they have. They got lucky in this draw though, and I'm seeing a lot of fans of the national team are still not too happy with their performances. They weren't looking to be their best despite qualifying at the end. But regardless, the job's done. They can potentially improve, but I am worried about their defense in the future. Just like how we saw in the World Cup, Hungary were also able to beat Serbia head-to-head both times with a 2-1 scoreline. So I still think Serbia have a lot of work to do to improve. I'm rooting for these guys. If you're not new around here, you know I support all the ex-Yugoslavian teams, but it's just a fact. This side should be better. They drew to Bulgaria twice, and Bulgaria in this qualifier campaign have been looking lifeless. I don't know why I decided to change my predictions for Montenegro and Bulgaria. Bulgaria finished dead last in this group with 0 wins. Lithuania had a little spurt of hope towards the end of this campaign. Montenegro looked to be in it at moments, but at the end they just fell short to Serbia. And Hungary finished undefeated despite picking up more draws than I expected them to. But regardless, Hungary were definitely the best performing side in this group. Shout out to them. We'll see if they're paired in the group of death once again in the Euros. So yeah, I did get the order of this group completely wrong, but I did get correct on who would be advancing for that 1st and 2nd spot. Let's move on to Group H now with Denmark, Finland, Slovenia, Kazakhstan, Northern Ireland, and San Marino. Despite Denmark having a terrible World Cup campaign themselves, just like Serbia, bottom of their group, terrible fashion, just 1 point. So many people were banking on this side to have a solid run in the tournament as well. So it's a bit of a shame. But still, in the last qualifier run, they grabbed 1st place by quite a margin, nearly doing it undefeated. I don't know if they can go that steep again, but I think they have the quality to still get 1st place. The rest I truly think is up for grabs. So much life in this group. apart from San Marino. I'm saying they're guaranteed 6th place. This side is still yet to win a proper competitive match, and this group looks too tough, with even the underdogs like Kazakhstan looking to be in confident form. Finland, apart from Denmark, are the only nation in this group to have qualified for Euro 2020, but that's the only European championship they've ever qualified for in their history. What worries me though is the back line seem to be going through a rebuild. However, with that being said, most people are probably banking on them to qualify, but I'm probably going to go for a bit of an outlier, and I did this in my last prediction video. I'm banking on Slovenia to get 2nd place. Slovenia finished 3rd in their Nations League group, and they really had a convincing ending, where we saw the likes of Benjamin Šeško light up. He's been doing pretty well for himself at Salzburg as well. Of course, they have one of the best goalkeeper options, Jan Oblak. Petar Stojanovic as well, pretty underrated fullback. Huge toss-up, but I'm saying Slovenia gets 2nd, Finland get 3rd. But even with that being said, hard to rule off these other 2 teams I haven't ranked yet. Kazakhstan going in with confident form. They topped their Nations League group. They beat Slovakia twice head-to-head. They could really impose some problems. But with that being said, in their last qualifier campaign for the World Cup, they did get results like losing to France 8-0. So it's easy to make arguments for this side or against them. I'd love to see this side have another outrageous story, but this group's going to be more high in demand. Maybe they can get some impressive results. I'm saying they get 4th. I think the confidence will shine at moments, but then they'll randomly slip. All right, you know what? I'm actually proud of this prediction. I got it 100% spot on, but also it was looking very close at moments. I predicted Kazakhstan 4th, sure, but there were moments it looked like they were going to secure 2nd place. They finished 4th, tie with points with 3rd place Finland. All they needed was a win against Slovenia at the end, and it finished 2-1 for Slovenia. Slovenia ended up qualifying for Euro 2024, sharing points with Denmark. I mean, this group between these 4 countries was always neck and neck, so close. Sometimes Finland and Kazakhstan were at the top, sometimes Denmark were trailing, but then they pulled themselves back up. But big up to Slovenia. Very happy I got this prediction right. Obviously, I was rooting for Slovenia, but also it's so nice to see Jan Oblak play in his very first international tournament. We'll see what they can bring to the table. Overall, they look to have some very solid results here. Did slip in some moments. Like I said, this group was extremely close, one of the most exciting groups to watch overall, and Kazakhstan still have that playoff position secured, so I would not mess with them. I would not want to be paired with Kazakhstan there. I knew they had a capability of doing something here after their Nations League performances, but I didn't think it would be this much. And yeah, Northern Ireland, I'm sorry, they just continued to disappoint, even though they got a win against Denmark at the very end. I don't think that's saying much, as Denmark already secured that 1st place spot. I don't think they were going all out there. And San Marino, despite getting 6th place correct, obviously, shout out to them as well. In the last 3 match days, San Marino were able to score a goal, which not many people were expecting. So maybe for the next qualifier campaign for this national team, we could see them actually grab a competitive win. They still have yet to do so. They do have 1 win, but it was a friendly. I really hope I live through that moment. Now for Group I, another group of life here. In fact, I think even more life than the previous one. Switzerland, definitely the giants in this group. But for any of these other teams, I'm specifically looking at 3 of them, but I think any of them have a solid shout to prove themselves. Israel have been in really solid form. That's why they were the pot 2 candidate of this group. Romania, not so much. They slipped at the end in their World Cup qualifiers, and then they did really bad in the Nations League. Kosovo, very back and forth with form. Some very impressive scorelines going their way. And the last Euro qualifiers, they were very impressive despite being in a tough group. All those 3 nations love to play with pride and confidence, and it can definitely take them far. Belarus and Andorra, I'm not too sold on, to be honest, so they're the bottom 2 for me. I'll put Andorra at 6th and Belarus at 5th. And of course, I'll put Switzerland at 1st. I think that goes without saying. Maybe they'll slip, but I think it's pretty unlikely. Between those 3 teams, though, it's really tough to call. Israel and Kosovo looking to qualify for their first ever European Championship. I think Kosovo can definitely have some outrageous scorelines going their way, actually, in this qualifier run. But can they keep it up throughout the entire longevity of the year? I see this group being a mess. Down to the wire. I went with Israel getting 2nd last time, but I will say Kosovo make history, qualify for their first ever Euros, and get 2nd place. Israel 3rd, and Romania 4th. Of course, after getting one group 100% correct, I had to fumble the bag on this one. What a dreadful prediction. Romania 4th place, and they finished 1st, topping the group undefeated. They're one of the 6 countries in Europe to finish the Euro qualifiers undefeated as well. This, I said, was the group of life filled with possibility. Kosovo very much disappointed. They had some interesting moments, but kept fumbling the bag. I expected more from them because they do have some standout players, but they just simply could not deliver. And Switzerland as well started to slip. Romania were able to grab a win against them on the final match day, securing that top place spot. Switzerland looked to be like the absolute juggernauts. No one wanted to bet against them. Yet, Romania defied the odds. This sent Switzerland all the way to pot 4, while Romania are in pot 2. Really was not surprised Kosovo didn't do the job at the end, obviously, but I am surprised 5th place under Belarus as well. To be fair to Belarus, they really shocked me. They even nearly pulled off a result against Switzerland. This has to be my worst group prediction out of all of them. I know I got Scotland wrong as well, but Romania got first in the group. I'm very happy for this country. I was actually just visiting Bucharest as well. Beautiful people, lovely time. So at the moment, I have nothing but love and respect that this side proved me wrong. I think most people favorited them to advance in the first place. I was going for kind of an upset here, since it just seemed like Israel or Kosovo really had the chance to kind of impose some threat. Israel still have a chance in the playoffs. Kosovo do not. But once again, big up to Romania. And the final group, we're looking at Group J with Portugal, Bosnia, Iceland, Luxembourg, Slovakia, and Liechtenstein. Sorry. Portugal are definitely grabbing first. It would be crazy if they don't. Apart from saying Liechtenstein are definite 6th, the rest is tricky. You've got Bosnia, who won their Nations League group. Iceland, who drew every single Nations League match but didn't lose or win any. Luxembourg catching a few surprises but still not being overall consistent enough. They still have a decent amount of youngsters though that can shine in this. And Slovakia, who have a lot of exciting components to this squad. They should be doing a lot better than they are. They can still turn things around, of course. They have so much quality. But for some reason, when this squad unites, they don't pull through to their maximum potential. Bosnia are going to be a mystery bag as well, as although they did top their Nations League group, they still decided to sack their manager Ivajlo Petev straight after. They appointed Hadzibegic, who did manage Bosnia a very long time ago, but only for 7 matches. Recently, he also managed Montenegro as well. I'm not too sure about the manager, obviously, but I'm saying they can still grab 2nd place. Iceland obviously had some remarkable campaigns in the past in the Euros, but obviously this is a very different squad, who truly don't look that electric, but they still are holding off games in a very narrow fashion. I banked on Luxembourg doing some bits in the last World Cup qualifiers, and I looked like a genius back then after they beat Ireland, but of course they faded away later, which could easily happen again. I'm so tempted to put this country at 3rd. I really wouldn't rule them out. I know they don't look like favorites at all. More people are very familiar with Iceland and Slovakia's history, but Luxembourg is a decent shout. I don't see Luxembourg going that low, but also not that high, so I'll say they get 4th. But which team's going to get 3rd? Iceland or Slovakia? It feels like a huge insult to put either of these teams at 5th place. I'm going to say we see some slight improvements for Slovakia, a rebuild in identity. It will be a rocky road, but they get 3rd place. Can't wait to see how terribly all this ages. Well, it definitely aged terribly. Saying Bosnia would get 2nd place, they finished 5th place with 7 losses. 7 losses. This national team is in an absolute crisis. Why did they sack Ivajlo Petev? They wanted more. They got too greedy. He was doing okay. Hadzibegic was not the answer. They sacked him halfway through. And even after that, they kept losing twice to Luxembourg. The only team they were able to beat twice was Liechtenstein. And then they beat Iceland in the very first match day, which had people hopeful. But everything else was a loss. Wasn't expecting much against Portugal, obviously. But couldn't do it against Slovakia. Couldn't do it against Luxembourg, and only beat Iceland 1 time. Sramota. I basically reversed my Bosnia predictions here. For the Nations League, I was doubtful for them. I said that they would get 4th place in their group. They got 1st. Here, I became hopeful for them. And they finished nearly dead last. They really fell off compared to a decade ago. In 2014, 2013, they were at an all-time high. They still have the playoffs, but based on the way Bosnia have been playing, if I were from any of the countries that are in the playoffs, I would be happy to face them. As for Slovakia, I'm not surprised they got 2nd place, but I am surprised how consistent they were looking. Based on how they were playing in the Nations League, they looked to be a bit inconsistent. Here, very much not so. They only fell short to Portugal, and both times they played them, they definitely put off the best fight out of any of the other countries. I don't think the supporters could ask any more from this national team based on what they're able to produce. Portugal looking like a very mighty side right now. Many people even saying that they could be the favorites to win the tournament as they finish the group with 10 for 10 wins at the top. I think that was the expectations considering the quality on paper this side possessed compared to all the other nations. But still, Very impressive fleet regardless. They were also able to get their biggest ever win in their history against Luxembourg. Besides that scoreline, Luxembourg have been impressive themselves, just not as consistent and composed as Slovakia. But yeah, at the end, Cristiano Ronaldo finishes as the top goal scorer of this group with 10 goals. Not as much as Lukaku, but still very impressive numbers considering his age. Looks like I got a lot of this order wrong, but it really was just that Bosnia prediction. If I shifted Bosnia down, everything else stays the same. I know that there were a good amount of people that weren't predicting Bosnia to get second place, but I don't think many were expecting them to be this bad. So yeah, guys, here's the total amount of countries I got correct in terms of who has automatically qualified in this round, in terms of who got first or second. And here is the total amount I got right in terms of actual placement. Not the best, but like I said, let me know how you guys did in the comments below. Thank you all for making it all the way to the end of this video. Of course, as soon as the draw is released, I'll be releasing an early prediction for the Euro tournament. I might upload something in between. So regardless, I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care. La cu noci.